Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dropping the Gloves. Thanks for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, you might notice things are a little different. It's just me. Timmy's not here today. Timmy won't be back. All in all, Tim's dead to us. I'm just kidding. Yeah, he left. Obviously sad, but we're gonna soldier on. This is my first solo episode, I think, in a long time. Tim was out of the town or out of the country a few years ago when I did a solo one, and I enjoyed it. And this is my plan moving forward. I just want to give you a brief update on where the show stands because, hey, there's a hell of a lot going on in the hockey world, and you don't really care about the show and the ins and outs of it. But I feel like I need to share. I will continue to go solo once a week for the foreseeable future. I'll be looking around, poking around, seeing what I can do. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then I'll do an interview once a week. I think I'll up that. I've been reaching out on Twitter, trying to find guys to come in. I don't like doing interviews. I think you guys know that. Some guys are great to talk to. Other guys are duds. And just, I'd rather watch paint dry. But I'm going to do it just because I think it's fun. I'm going to reach out to older guys, current players, and just really kind of navigate the hockey world. I think hockey players are interesting, and I don't know. I will do more just to have some fun with it. But that's the kind of the format moving forward. I'll talk a little bit more about my life. I might get in trouble because Tim was always I'll say the sane voice in the room where I would say something and we would backtrack and we'd edit and we'd take things out. But now it's on me, baby. I will have all carte blanche control of everything. I'm editing. I'm doing all the cuts from the show, which I don't like to do. If I say something, I might get in trouble and I might lose listeners. I might gain listeners, but stay with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. It might be a learning curve initially. The first couple episodes might, struggle a little bit. I might have some pauses here and there, but I'm going to do my best to kind of iron those out pretty quick. I've been doing this for 5-6 years now. I love everybody who listens and watches on YouTube. I appreciate all the support when you're going through this kind of transition period, but we will get through it. It'll be fun. And at the end, I think the show could maybe be better. Because what did Tim bring at the end of the day? Nothing. I'm just teasing. But one thing I will say is I'm open to criticism. I'm open to your ideas. So let me know in the comments. If you want to get a hold of me, email me, john@droppingthegloves.com. On the YouTube videos, just drop a comment down below. I read them all. I respond to them all. I'm going to be more involved in Twitter. I don't think it's that big of a secret. I did not do any of my social media. I didn't do any of my Twitter. I didn't do any of my Instagram. I just felt like it was a distraction for my family and I didn't want to have that in my life or on my phone. Tim did most of it. Tim did all of it, I'll be honest. And he enjoyed doing it. That was part of his job, but our kind of agreement. But since he's stepped away, he's not doing any of it. So I'm going to be doing all the Twitter, all the Instagram, everything. I might not be as on top of things as Tim was. I'm not going to respond right away, but I will do it. I'm not going to have it on my phone still. I think it's just too much for me to have on my phone, but I'll have it on my work computer so I can check it. I'll interact with you guys. I'll be more active on Twitter, and it'll be me, which will be fun. So shoot me messages there. We can go back and forth and have, fun. And then I'll be more active in our Slack community too. And I've always been active there. But yeah, if you're not a part of that, please join us. It's going to be a struggle. I need your help. Join Patreon. Get on that. I'll drop the link in the bio here. And, we'll just see where this goes. I think it could be a good thing at the end of the day, but we're going to start with the biggest story in hockey. I'm not going to spend too much time on this just because I think it's been beat to death. And every time I open up TSN or ESPN or the Hockey News or wherever you get your hockey media from, it's the Mitch Marner saga. And I just wanted to put my 2 cents on this because I think, I'm the only one who called this. I knew his days were not going to continue in Toronto 2 years ago. And I think a couple other pundits have said this now after the fact. Hindsight's always 2020. Oh, well, Kyle Dubas should have traded him back in 2023 when he had the chance before the no-trade clause kicked in. Yeah, no kidding. That's why Kyle Dubas was traded, because at his year-end conference, he even floated the idea of trading Mitch Marner. It was a throwaway comment, but everybody grabbed on and he said, we can't keep doing this same thing. Maybe we have to break up the core four. He said something like that. And then the very next day, Brendan Shanahan fired him because that was not going to happen under his watch. He had an idea of this team. He had the core four. That was his baby. And he was going to ride this thing out until it was dead or they won the Stanley Cup. Ultimately, it died. It flamed out. Brendan Shanahan got fired. Mitch Marner's gone. They still have 3 of the core 4. Well, 4 of the core 5 if you include Morgan Riley. But it just didn't work out. They should have traded Mitch Marner then. We fast forward to now. Essentially, they do a good job. If I'm Brad Treveling and I'm sitting in his shoes, he knows he can't move any of those guys because he has the guillotine above his neck of Brendan Shanahan basically telling him, you build this team around these 5 guys. That's it. You have such and such amount of dollars to spend, and I want you to win. Kyle Dubas didn't win. And in all honesty, I think Kyle Dubas did a great job in Toronto. I think he addressed every need that this team had. They needed toughness. He goes out and gets toughness. He gets Ryan Reeves, Kyle Clifford. He brings back in Zach Bogosian. He brings in meat and muscle and sandpaper. They still don't win. They need some veterans. They go out. They get Jason Spezza. They get Joe Thornton, my buddy. Patrick Marleau, my buddy. They still don't win. Oh, they need some this, that, and the other. They need some centerman. They can bring in everybody, goaltending help. He brings in goaltending help. They can bring Jack Campbell trying to shore up the back end, between the net. Nothing seemed to work. So you fire Kyle Dubas. You bring in Brad Treveling. He does the same. He brings in Scott Laughton, who was probably the best pickup at the deadline. Didn't really pan out, but everybody wanted Scott Laughton. You bring in some defensemen to shore up that back end. It still didn't work. And at the end of the day, Mitch Marner sees the writing on the wall. He knows he's out of town. He just enacts his no-move clause, doesn't get traded anywhere. When they tried to trade him, the whole big Carolina, Vegas move, Mitch Marner just nixed that. He wanted to stay in Toronto, one last run. They lose again, and it's free agency period time. And everybody's all up in arms about this tampering thing and Vegas Golden Knights, and they need to trade for him, or else they're going to get whacked in tampering by the NHL because they're really going to hammer down on that. And my comment on that is everybody tampers. Everybody in the NHL has tampered, not just now, forever. It's nothing new. And the idea that Gary Bettman is all of a sudden going to clamp down on this and he's going to drop the hammer on teams for colluding and going behind the other team's back and negotiating with players and talking to agents and this, that, and the other thing. If you do it for one team, you have to do it for every single team. I was a free agent, I want to say 4 or 5 years in my career. I was always signing 1-year deals. It happens every single offseason. Technically, you're not allowed to talk to players or their agents until July 1st. How are you expecting to do business if you can't talk to agents or players before the fact? And the NHL knew what was going on year after year after year. Every single time free agency started at 12 o'clock, what happened? I used to be a fan. I used to be a player. What would happen? 50 deals would be on the board right away. 12:03, there'd be 50 deals to talk about. High money guys were getting $8, $9, $10 million. That's back in the day. Now it's a little bit less, but all these deals would come rushing into the NHL and they'd be posting all of them. How does that happen if there's no tampering? How all of a sudden can an agent call up a GM and go, let's do a deal? Okay, well, what do you want? And there's a quick negotiation period? Like, you got to be kidding me. So this has been going on forever. And the idea that if Mitch Marner doesn't get traded to the Vegas Golden Knights by Toronto, and then the next day he signs with the Knights, the league was going to come in and whack the Knights for tampering is ludicrous. It's absolutely stupid. It's Gary Bettman just getting a bee in his bonnet because some GM didn't like that they were talking to his player, and then Gary Bettman is buddies with that GM, and it's just like, oh, I got to do something. I need to put my foot down to make sure the GMs like me, because at the end of the day, that's his bosses, the owners, subsequently the GMs. And if he upsets them, maybe he's not around, which I know we all love Gary Bettman. But gosh, he's been a commissioner for a long, long time. But going back to the tampering charges, it's a non-story. And if he does whack one team with a tampering charge, if he goes after the LA Kings or the New York Rangers, I should say, for the Gavrikov thing, or even the Vegas Golden Knights for what they did with Mitch Marner, I just think it opens up Pandora's box. And then every single GM and every single team will just start throwing allegations everywhere. Oh, well, you signed him. No, we got to get a tampering charge on you. And then where do the penalties go? If you start off heavy-fisted, it can only go up from there. You can't go down from there. The NHL is so backwards when it comes to punishments. We obviously know my issue with George Peros. There's no consistency. It's just pull a name out of a hat, a suspension out of a hat, and that's what you get. There's no rhyme or reason for it. There's no justification. And if they just throw this tampering thing into the mix, it'll be another issue for teams to get upset about, for fans to lose their minds about, and for players to just not know what the hell the league's doing. So I hope it's a non-issue. I hope Gary Bettman doesn't do anything about it. But yes, going back to the Mitch Marner thing, he left Toronto for essentially nothing. I think Nick Waugh is a good player. He'll slot in third, fourth line center for the Toronto Maple Leafs, a position they need, which I thought they had filled with what's his face, Scott Lawton, but maybe they'll be on the same line. Who knows what's going to happen there? But he's a good player, so they get something, and you have to applaud Brad Trevierling for that because essentially he was gone in a few hours, and you managed to get a good NHL talent out of a deal where you were going to get nothing. So good for him. And let's talk about Mitch Marner. I was the one who said Mitch Marner stirred the drink in Toronto. I think it was a few years back. When I looked at this roster and I looked at how they played their game, I thought that Mitch was the guy. And if you were to lose one of the core four, obviously you'd let Tavares go first, but his contract, no one was taking that. Nylander would be the next one. And then I would let go of Matthews before I let go of Marner. And I still believe that. I think Mitch Marner, as much as people hate him in Toronto, and as much criticism as he gets, he was the best player in Toronto. Willie Nylander has his moments. Like, he's an incredible offensive talent. He's so gifted with the puck. He just looks effortless. Austin Matthews, obviously, 69 goals, like an elite goal scorer on the level of Alex Ovechkin. Like, there's no other level that he can get to. That's how good he is. But I just think Marner's better. And that's just my opinion. I think he facilitates. I think he distributes the puck. I think you can play him up and down the lineup with different players, and he gets the most out of every single player he plays with. I don't think Matthews can do that. I don't think Matthews, and people might hate hearing this, and goal scoring is hard. Not a lot of guys can score goals consistently from as different angles and positions and spots as Austin Matthews does. And when he gets going, he can take over a game. But on a night in and night out basis, on the power play, the penalty kill, 5-on-5, I think Marner's better. I think he's not way better, but better than Austin Matthews. And to lose him, this will be a big hit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know people are expecting them to continue to win, which they will, but they're going to have a big drop off in my eyes. This one hurts. I would have much rather lost Austin Matthews over Mitch Marner. And maybe I'm wrong, but I've always thought, and I will still believe, that he was the straw that stirred the drink in Toronto. And he was the guy who got the best out of Austin Matthews. He was the guy who you could put with Willie Nylander, and he would just, through the roof potential. Matthew Nyes, you put him with him, the big forward. He gets the best out of everybody. Your power play's struggling. You put Mitch Marner on the top, and he shores it up. He has that ability to make everybody around him better. And I think in Toronto, people took that for granted because they would look at the finish, the end result. Oh, what a goal by Austin Matthews. You know, what a finish by Matthew Nyes. Oh, look at that play by Willie Nylander. Awesome. What you don't see, or what you don't focus on, is how he got the puck. How the puck entered the zone. How the whole thing was developed. What built that play. And a lot of the time, it was Mitch Marner doing it. Picking up the puck on the breakout for the power play. Being the first guy into the zone, in the offensive zone, with the puck. Dangling through the neutral zone. Like, he was so incredibly good. He was like a Kucherov, but man, maybe not as good as a Kucherov, but very, very close. So I would have liked them to keep Mitch Marner. I would have liked them 3 years ago maybe to do something different to, edit this team. But you made your bed. You signed Austin Matthews to that long-term deal. You gave Willie Nylander a long-term deal after you wouldn't trade Marner in 2023. You re-upped Willie Nylander because he had that incredible regular season where everything was going right for him. And John Tavares, you gave him the $10 million. So you had to move somebody, and it was Mitch Marner. And if I'm Mitch Marner, obviously he wanted to go. I think they were throwing contracts at him. I don't know what the numbers were, but he wanted to get out of town because why would you want to stay? Why would you want to stay in a situation like that? And I know a lot of the listeners are maybe scratching their head like, aren't you the biggest Leafs hater ever? Don't you think these guys, fail in the playoffs and they're not clutch and they're millennials and this, that, and the other thing? Yeah, I do. But at the end of the day, Mitch Marner is one of what? What do you think? Top 10 players on the planet? Top 12, maybe? He is a talent. And if you're trying to win hockey games, you keep the talent that you have and you try to build around that. But if I'm Marner, why would I want to stay? I'm just getting criticized left, right, and center. All the blame always falls on me, and sometimes rightfully so, sometimes it's justified. But at the end of the day, I was a hell of a hockey player when I was with this Toronto Maple Leafs team. Look at his stats. He played 657 games. He was consistently healthy. Didn't miss many games when he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs. 657 games, 221 goals, 520 assists, 741 points. You know where that puts him all time in Toronto points? 5th. The Toronto Maple Leafs have been a franchise for what, 100 some years, and he's 5th all time on that franchise in points? You guys, that's not nothing. This guy was an absolute stud for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And unfortunately, and rightfully so, all he'll be remembered for forever and always is just not performing in the playoffs. I think he had 70 games in the playoffs, 63 points, so well below his, 1.2 points per game average he has in the regular season. But things are hard in their playoffs. Defenses buckle down. Defenses game planning against other teams' best players, and that's Mitch Marner. But other guys step up. And this is why he's gone, essentially, because he could not do it in the playoffs. He was not the guy that they could rely on. He's not a Braden Point. A guy who you just know in a big moment will step up. Even though he's got Kucherov and Stamkos and Hedman, it was Braden Point a lot of times for those Tampa Bay teams. He's not a Sam Bennett. Not the same type of player, but still not the best player on the team. And Marner, he had Matthews to kind of shield him from a lot of the criticism. Matthews, it was his team. Tavares, it was his team. You had Morgan Riley in the back end, the veteran defenseman who's been there forever. Marner had that insulation, I should say, and he never stepped up. It was Willie Nylander sometimes who stepped up, but Marner never did it. Games 5 through 7, 0 goals, 7 assists, 20 games. You guys know the stats. They've been thrown at us left, right, and center. So he's gone. He's gone. He goes to Vegas, where life is easy, where there's no pressure, where you can walk down the street and nobody would recognize you. You could literally play a game, get dressed, walk out the front door of the arena, nobody would recognize you. You could be walking by guys with your jerseys, in my opinion. Nobody would recognize you. As soon as you get out of there and you're on the strip, you're nobody. That's what he wanted. He wanted to get away from the spotlight. And this is a whole other conversation for a whole other podcast where players want that. Players like that. Players like anonymity. And when you play in the hockey hotbed of Toronto, when you're always under the microscope, it's tough. Not a lot of guys like that type of pressure. I was just watching a Larry Bird thing. I love watching like YouTube clips or YouTube videos. You look at my YouTube, it's all either woodworking, it is Gordon Ramsay Kitchen Nightmare, and it is Larry Bird trash talking stuff. And he was one of the few guys who he wanted all the pressure on him. He loved it. He just exceeded expectations. He strived for that moment. And it's hard to have that type of gene, that genetic makeup where I want the pressure. As the kids say, I want the smoke, man. And Larry Bird wanted the smoke. He brought it on himself, and Mitch Marner does not. That's why you go to the Vegas Golden Knights. Because I thought there was better spots for him. On this show, I was saying, go to the LA Kings. And I'll talk about the Kings in a second, because I was saying go to the Kings before the free agency period. And holy hell, we'll get to that in a second. But he wanted to, again, be the Robin to somebody else's Batman. He's stepping into a Vegas Golden Knights team where there is a little bit of pressure for him. Initially, everybody will pay attention to his first game in Toronto, how he's doing. They'll get some national TV games, of course, because everyone wants to see how he's going to fit into with this roster, but that'll die off. He'll get his time in the spotlight, but then he'll get anonymity. And I wonder how that'll feel for him. He'll be able to walk around. He'll be able to go to the grocery store if he enjoys it, because gosh, he hasn't been able to do anything in 8-9 years without someone, sniffing his jock and saying, what are you doing? Are we going to win the playoffs? What's wrong? This, that, and the other. It's a different world out there. And I wonder how he'll like it. But just going back to the Vegas Golden Knights and how he fits in. This team is loaded again. You lose Alex Pietrangelo, obviously, terrible, terrible story. It's really sad when you see a guy who just leaves it all in the ice, but it's almost poetic. It's not sad. It's beautiful in a way, but it stinks because he was such an incredible hockey player. You go back to a guy, and I'm not likening him to this player, but Bobby Orr, where, man, if he were to play, if his knees didn't go bad, if you were to give Bobby Orr 10 more years, best player on the planet by far, a Mike Bossy. It's elite talents, and Alex Pietrangelo, you can tell he's been laboring the last few years, but I don't know if he definitively put the stamp on his career, but he ain't coming back for a long time. Maybe he did and I missed it, but he's going to step away for a long time. And it's great to see he's putting his family first. You saw him after they won the cup. He was all about his family. That's where his priority should be in getting healthy. But yeah, it's tough to lose him. You get the money for Mitch Marner. But where does Mitch Marner fit into this roster? They got Mark Stone and they got Marner on the right side. You got Eichel and Hurdle down the middle. You got Barbashev and Dorofeev on the left side. That's two incredible, first lines essentially. And that's unstoppable. Those are the best two lines in the league. Not overall, but first top two lines. You know what I'm saying? And then you got Saad and Carlson and Smith, and you bring in Colton Sissons, who was it? Ty Anderson coming in here from the Nashville Gazette or whatever that paper saying Colton Sissons was going to be a first line center. That guy was swinging a miss on that one, but he's good fourth line centerman. So he shores up the fourth line. I think Mitch Marner, and I know Chris Knobloch has toyed with this in Edmonton every once in a while. I think you load up that first line. I think you go Eichel, Marner, and Stone, and you just let those three rip initially and see what the magic they can make. Because unlike Edmonton, this team has the ability to throw out a pretty good second line with Riley Smith, Hurdle, and Barbashev. Then you go Carlson, Brandon Saad. Keegan Colasar can play in the third line. He's got some decent, legs under him. You have the ability to have some depth after that first three. Because I think Marner and Stone and Eichel, you have the trigger man, you got the playmaker, you got another playmaker and a trigger man and Jack Eichel. That'd be incredible to watch. And does this make them a Stanley Cup contender? Well, they already were a contender. Does this make them the number one pick out west? Edmonton's getting worse. They obviously lost Evander Kane, Corey Perry. They ditched Arvidsson. Connor Brown signed somewhere else. So this team, the Oilers, 2 straight Stanley Cup finals, they're not getting better. They're not looking any better. They re-signed Evan Bouchard. They got to give McDavid a ton of money, but they're not getting better. Other teams in the West, I don't think, improved too much over free agency. So yeah. If I'm doing the rankings right now, if I'm in Vegas and I'm saying who is the top dog in the West, it's the Vegas Golden Knights, and it's because of Mitch Marner. Obviously, this guy is a difference maker. I firmly believe he'll come out with this team next year. What do you have? 103 last year, his career high. I think it's 112 to 120. And how poetic would it be if they went to the Stanley Cup Finals and they played the Toronto Maple Leafs? Oh, please let that happen. Please let that happen. That would be the best thing ever. And then he wins the Conn Smythe, and the Vegas Golden Knights get a parade, and then Mitch Marner brings the cup back, a la Phil Kessel, to Toronto. Oh, that would be so poetic. All right, moving forward. Can't stand Mitch Marner that long. The big thing I wanted to talk about today was the LA Kings. And again, this is my first solo show. If you don't like this kind of format, let me know. Maybe it sucks. Maybe you want me to just gunfire rapid shot through the news of the day, and I can really get into it and rip people and say that GM sucks, that player is garbage, this is trash, this, that, and the other. I don't know. I just, for some reason, I was looking at this free agent period, and the team that I was so excited for was the LA Kings. I can't even drink my coffee anymore because I got to keep talking. The LA Kings, 4 straight years they've lost in the first round. In 4 straight years, I've just had that feeling like, why? Come on, do more. Do more at the deadline. You have that team. When they lost 4 years ago to the LA Kings in 7, that's when I was really excited for this team. And I was like, come on, do more. And so I did a little digging. This team, obviously, they won the Cup in 2012. They won the Cup in 2014. I played against those Cup-winning teams. They were incredible. What made them incredible was just they played defensive hockey. They were a Daryl Sutter team. All of the players, all of the coaches, all of the staff, they all were buying into Daryl Sutter. This was a defense first. This was a grinded-out team, even though they had incredible talent. You had Kopitar, you had Carter, you had Williams, you had Richards, you had Doughty, Toffoli, Jarrett Stoll, Jake Muzzin, Marion Gaborik, for Pete's sake. Like, they had high-end elite talent. But still, I think the highest point total on the team was like 80, 75. It's because they knew how to play the game. They sacrificed offense for defense. So they win the Cup in 2014. And then I think they were drinking their own Kool-Aid. 2015, the same group, they missed the playoffs. Quick was hurt, so maybe that was a big issue. So 2016, they take a big swing. They bring in Milan Lucic. So I'm going to breeze through this pretty fast because I was hoping, and I'll be honest, I was hoping to criticize the GMs. I was hoping to criticize Lombardi and this and that for, not doing enough to continue this run they were on. But I thought they did fine. It's a tough job for GM when you have this just Stanley Cup team and this core, and you can see how GMs navigate this. A team like Pittsburgh, where you win a couple Stanley Cups and then you try to just milk out every last inch of those guys, and now look where you are. It happened to the Chicago Blackhawks. It happened to most teams. Washington, they did a good job. St. Louis, it happened to them. And the LA Kings, I feel like after that cup, they tried their best to extend the window. But I feel like in contrast to a lot of the other teams who just hang on to their vets, I don't think they did. I think they were pretty prudent with their players. They trade Carter, they get rid of Williams, they trade Richards, they trade a lot of these high-end guys before they, start to accumulate dust, before they're completely useless. I look at a San Jose Sharks team a few years back, the team that I was on, for Pete's sake. After that year we lost and we didn't make the playoffs, they should have gutted the roster. They should have absolutely gutted it. But they re-upped again, and they did have some success, but you didn't win a Stanley Cup. And that's what it's all about. So this team here, you have all those great players. You bring in Luch. That was a swing and a miss. He leaves for free agency. You lose a first rounder from him and Colin Miller, who's a good defenseman, and you give up Martin Jones, who's a very good goaltender at that time. You miss the playoffs. You make the playoffs. You lose in the first round. 16-17, miss again. The core's getting older. 16-17, you make the playoffs with Daryl Sutter, but you lose in the playoffs in the first round again. Sutter's fired, and then you do this yo-yo of just making the playoffs, losing, losing, bringing in vets, but not really sacrificing, not going all in. So I'm not upset with this kind of middle of the road. It's where we get to the last few years where it kind of irks me a little bit with this team. Because while they were losing, and they were bad, back in 1920, 18, 19, 20, 21, they did draft some good players. You go out and you draft Alex Turcotte, number 5 overall. You go out and you get Quentin Byfield at number 2 overall. That same draft, round 2, they get Brock Faber. Round 3, they get Alex Laferriere. Imagine that draft. Quentin Byfield, first round, Brock Faber, second round, and then Alex Laferriere, third round. That's a franchise-altering draft. Like, that's a draft that people talk about for years to come. Then the next draft, they get Brandt Clark at number 8. And then you start to feel excited about this franchise again. And they start to win. They get all these good young players, now they're winning. They lose to Edmonton in Game 7 in 21-22. Things are looking up. So what do they do in the offseason? We got to capitalize on this momentum. Let's trade our first rounder and Brock Faber for Kevin Fiala to Minnesota. At the time, looked like a great trade. Kevin Fiala, solid player. Slot him in your first or second line. The impact type player, has some speed. He's a burner. The guy can score. First rounder, hopefully it'll be a low first rounder because you're going to make the playoffs next year. But Brock Faber, hindsight, boy, is 2020. At the time, Brock hadn't played a game in the NHL. He was still playing college hockey. No one knew the ceiling of this guy, but people thought, this kid could be good. He was a second rounder. We obviously invested a lot for him, but we need Kevin Fiala. We need some scoring up front. And we need some help for Kempe and Kopitar and these guys. And Kevin Fiala will fit right into that lineup. Oh, my goodness. So Matt, going back, like that's got to sting a little bit. This team was a threat, though. You have to make that move. And, good on them for trying to make a move, but obviously it didn't work out in the short term or the long term. So you're still trying to make this team good. And then 2022-23 hits, and they make a huge move. They trade Jonathan Quick. They trade him to Columbus for first Korpisalo and Gavrikov. I love this trade. Talking about not letting dust, get on your players. Jonathan Quick still was a big name at that point. And to get a first rounder, Korpisalo and Gavrikov for him, they give up Quick and a first for Korpisalo and Gavrikov. A starting goaltender and a very good defenseman in Gavrikov, who obviously just left right now to go to the New York Rangers. Things are good. And as with life, you make mistakes and you make good decisions. You trade Iafallo and Velarde for Dubois. Bad. But then you flip Dubois. Good. You make good signings, you make bad signings. And now this is where I really want to scream and shout. But because I'm doing the podcast by myself, I can't. I'm not going to. They bring in Ken Holland. And you guys all know how I feel about the all boys club. The old boys club. What the hell are they doing, Luke Robitaille, bringing in Ken Holland? Like, I know he won a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings a million years ago. I get that. He goes to Edmonton and does nothing with that team. He inherited an already skilled team, and he did nothing with that team. So he parted the ways with Edmonton, and he walks right into a great situation in LA last year. A great situation. This year, for Pete's sake, it was only a few months ago. And what does he do? He's got $25 million to spend. The LA Kings were 6th in the league this past season. 6th. They had a great run. Just because of this wacko playoff system, they ended up getting the Oilers in the first round again. But they were 6, you guys. The West is wide open. I just mentioned the Oilers are hurting. They're not going to be the same team. The Vegas Golden Knights loaded up and got Mitch Marner. Nobody knows how that's going to work out. Is it going to be another Nashville situation where you win the free agency, but then it just doesn't click? Nobody knows. Colorado, what are they going to do there? There's a lot of unknowns in the West, and the LA Kings had the opportunity to just take it to the next level. Coming off a great season. Byfield is the real deal. Brant Clark's playing fantastic. Turcotte's great. Everything's going great. You got $25 million to spend. Like that's a lot of cake. There's some good players out there. You can make a run at Mitch Marner. Do whatever you want. And what does Ken Holland do? What does he do with all that money to spend? You spend it on vets who are on the back nine in their career. Vets who have no reason. Well, I won't go that far. They have a reason to be in the NHL. But the fact that you're extending offers July 1st for some of these guys, like that's your priority. You go into this offseason, Ken Holland, and you're looking at the list of free agents and you go, oh, Cody Ceci, Cody. I got to get myself some Cody Ceci. Like, are you kidding me? Like, is that really your prerogative? And then what's next on your list? Oh, baby. I got Cody done. Brian Dumoulin. Got to get myself Brian Dumoulin done. Got to shore up that back end. 3 years, $4 million for Brian Dumoulin. 4 years, $4.5 million per for Cody Ceci. This is a defense that, it was good last year. I think Mikey Anderson stepped up, and he's a 1A defenseman. Like, he's great. Drew Doughty went down. He shored up that first pairing. He played fantastic. You got Brant Clark coming in. He's going to be off his ELC this upcoming season. But he's a good NHL defenseman. But they needed some help. And there were some options out there. And Ken Holland comes in and goes, Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin. Like, what? What are we doing? What are we doing here? And then after that, he goes, we need some help up front. I already got Fiala. He's my burner. Kopitar, he's on the end of his deal, but he'll probably re-up. He's a pretty damn good hockey player. Much like Don Tavares, these guys aren't aging. This year, he got 67 points. Last year, 70. The year before that, 74. And, by the way, the guy never misses a game. He dresses every single game. So I got Kopitar. I got Deneau. I got Kempe. Let's go out and get some scoring help. Okay. Andrei Kuzmenko. I don't mind that signing. He's been up and down. I feel like he was great when he came into the Vancouver Canucks. Everybody thought he was going to be a 50-goal scorer. Sky's the limit. And it's just been a slow trajectory down. So they re-up Kuzmenko. Okay, I get that. He's a known commodity. He was on your team last year. He played okay. Not great, but almost a point per game guy when you got him at the deadline. And then you go and get Corey Perry. And listen, I love Corey Perry. But, and on the other side of the page, if I'm Corey Perry, I'm like, why the hell am I signing here? I like the sign. I'm not going to crap on it too much, but he's 40 years old. You guys, he's 40. We're trying to get younger. We're trying to get faster. We already have an aging group of forwards. Kopitar's 37. Deneau's 32. Fiala's 28. Trevor Moore is 30. Warren Fogel's almost 30. We need to get younger. And you go out and get the oldest player on the planet in Corey Perry. But, I'm not going to make the joke. But they will do very well next year. Probably losing the Stanley Cup final. And then you get Joel Armia. And I'm a big Joel Armia fan. I play with him. He's a good player. I think I played with him in Buffalo. But again, are there better options out there? And this was a singular signing. I would be okay with it. But when you bundle it up with everybody that he signed, it just doesn't scream is sexy. It doesn't scream, I'm going for it. It doesn't scream, this is the team that's going to put us over the top. And then to shore up the goaltending situation, they brought in Darcy Kemper, obviously, Anton Forsberg. Whatever. He's a good backup goaltender. He'll probably play 20, 30 games. He has seen better days. He didn't play overly well with the Ottawa Senators in his tenure there, but he kind of resurrected it last year. He played okay. But as a whole, if I'm Ken Holland, which one of these players is going to make my team better? Which one? And I don't know how many LA Kings fans are listening or how many LA Kings fans want to hear this, but is it Cody Ceci? Is it Brian Dumoulin? Is it Corey Perry? Is it Armia, Forsberg, Kuzmenko? None of these guys. None of these guys will make this team that much better. I feel like I could go on the free agency market right now and get 6 guys that would do the same thing that these guys are doing at a fraction of the cost. I just don't get it. I don't get it, you guys. These GMs get away with this, and it just doesn't make sense to me. There were other options available. LA is a destination. You have good young players. You have good veterans. You have a chance to make a move in the West, and you just throw this crap show on the page. So, all right, that's all I'm going to say on that. Let's do some quick hits, and we'll get out of here. Speaking of Gavrikov, the LA Kings obviously lost him. He signs with the New York Rangers for 7 years, $7 million. Love this for the Rangers. Absolutely love this. I know there was some talk that he wanted 8.5. There was some, stuff bandied about that he was just going to shoot for the moon. And thankfully, the New York Rangers, for the first time I think ever, don't overpay this guy. I love this move for them. They have a need, and it was stability on the back end. And this quiets that right away. And the interesting thing here is what they did about an hour later. They trade Keandre Miller to the Carolina Hurricanes for a second and a first and some other player. So Chris Drury, for as much criticism as he gets, you didn't make the playoffs this year. This guy, he does not wait around. He does not sit on his hands. He got rid of Trouba. He got rid of Kreider. He got rid of Kakko. He has revamped this roster. He brings in JT Miller. The back end's not working. Keandre Miller, take care, comb your hair. Ryan Lindgren, bye-bye. Bringing in Vladislav Gavrikov. And these guys signed for almost the identical same number. Killer Keandre Miller, if his nickname's not Killer, it should be. He signs in Carolina right after he gets traded there for 8 years, 7.5. And Gavrikov signs for 7.7 when he gets to New York. So, same number. Keandre Miller, 25 years old. Higher upside, right? Like he is a 6'5" physical defenseman who skates like the wind. But the knock on him, and I don't know if everybody will fix this, but if a team can kind of fix him of this problem, is he turns the puck over when he's pressured. He's not good going back for the puck. He doesn't like that pressure. If you get him in the open, if you give him some time, he's very, very dangerous. But the second you put any little bit of pressure on him, he turns it over. And that's okay when it's your 5th, 6th defenseman and you can shield him and he gets limited ice time. But when you're the guy, and you're expected to do things to help this team win, and now that you're making $7.5 million, you are the highest paid defenseman on that roster, Keandre Miller. You're the guy. It's not Slavin, it's not Walker, it's not Gostisbehere, it's not Chatfield or Orlov or whoever. It's you. You can't turn the puck over. You can't get the itsy, what do they call it when you get scared? The ooey gooey feelies when someone's pressuring you and just like get up the boards we go and turn the puck over. That's what he did with the Rangers. That's why he's gone. They saw that too many times at very, very consequential times. And they just couldn't do it anymore. So I said, see you later, bud. And you bring in a Gavrikov who is not sexy, who is not, going to put up 60, 70 points. But he is a reliable player. And we've seen what reliable players do. They win you Stanley Cups. Look at the Florida Panthers. You think Mikkola is like an outstanding offensive defenseman? You think Forsling is an outstanding defenseman? Ekblad, even himself, you think he's just like an offensive dynamo? No. But he's just defensively responsible and reliable. And in today's age, that's hard to come by. It really is, which is crazy to say. I feel like everybody in the minor leagues, all these young kids growing up, it's all offense, offense, offense. Rightfully so. That's what scouts look at. But when you get to the show and you get to that point where you need a lockdown guy, they're hard to come by. And Gavrikov is that guy. He is such a reliable safety blanket back there that the New York Rangers can pair him up with Adam Fox for the next 6-7 years and roll him out for 25 to 30 minutes a night. And that's it. And that's what they needed. And Chris Drury, I really do like what he's doing. You know, he gets rid of Goodrow. I'm a good buddy with Goodrow, but he gave him an ultimatum. I'm going to throw you in the, Hartford Wolfpack, or I'm going to waive you. And that's it. Unless you accept the trade. So he accepts the trade. Did the same thing with Jake Trouba. Maybe not so aggressively, but that's what he did. And he's revamping this roster. And they still have some issues. Obviously, Panarin's going to be UFA after this season. Zibanejad signed till 2030 at 8.5. If they can figure out him, that would be great. But I can slowly see where this team will be. He also signed Will Cooley. 2 years, $3.9 million. You have him locked up after this contract. He's going to be an RFA. I thought that guy would sign for $7 million. That's how good I think Will Cooley is. I like Will Cooley. I think he's going to be a stud Tom Wilson type player in this league. But all right, that's it for me, everybody. Good job by the New York Rangers. Terrible job by the Carolina Hurricanes, which was strange for me for the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a reach for them. I'm sorry. I would have much rather have Brent Burns back for 2 years than a Keandre Miller. Brent Burns would have signed for $2 million. Now you got this guy for 8 years, $7.5 million. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he turns into the Brent Burns that Burns he was when he was with Minnesota and San Jose, and everybody was questioning his acumen for defense. Can you control this guy? He's like a wild stallion. Maybe Miller turns into a Brent Burns. That's the ceiling for him. But the floor, holy hell, it's a very low floor. It's a turnover machine who has no confidence and just is really not great defensively. So I don't know. I don't know about this move for the Carolina Hurricanes. Great move for the New York Rangers. I absolutely love it. And I love this show. I love that you guys listen. I'm going to sign off here again. Let me know if I need to do anything different. I will get back to maybe regular format instead of going heavily on two subjects, Marner and Kings, or maybe this is what I'll do going forward. Let me know what you think. I'm flexible. I want to keep doing this and make you guys happy. So I appreciate the support, and I will talk to you next week. Cheers, everybody.